to Jesse Stories. If you're new here, we handle everything disabilities, therapy perspectives. Today is a therapy perspective, but we'll be talking to Isabelle. She's a therapist, specifically a couples therapist, and she talks about her books, which she'll be showing you, and I'll leave links down below for you to check out. I really enjoyed my conversation with her. She's very genuine and fun just to talk to. She has humor, which is fun when therapists have humor, and she's a mom. And if you're new here, your presence is greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for being here. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend about it, share this channel, please help spread the word. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the interview. If you could introduce yourself and what you do.
My name is Dr. Isabelle Morley. I'm a clinical psychologist and couples therapist and author.
Well, thank you. That was straight to the point.
Oh, did you want a longer intro?
No, I just never know what to expect from each person. Some people are short with their intro, some people are super long, some people are in the middle, and some people say one word. So I have no expectation.
I've gotten so used to people saying like, I need, a 4-sentence bio, or I need, like a longer 20-sentence bio. And you sort of like learn how to edit yourself to present it to what the format is.
Yeah, I don't want anyone editing themselves. I prefer them be fully themselves. Actually, even most of my interviews are pretty raw regardless, unless you ask certain parts taken out. That's the only time anything happens. I prefer people being themselves. I got that in the Escaping Twin Flames behind the scenes when I interviewed everyone behind the scenes, so not ex-members, but it was funny because they were doing exactly the same thing you just have asked.
Really?
I don't want you to edit yourself. No, thank you.
All right. I'll give you full Izzy.
And just no expectations. Yeah, don't ever know. So my blank stare tends to be just me not knowing. Oh yeah, what are green flags in a healthy relationship?
To me, the biggest green flag that I'm always looking for people is somebody self-aware? Like, do they have insight into themselves, into their good qualities, into their growing edges? And are they willing to hear feedback and engage in the work? Because I think there is no perfect person, no one who is done growing, but people who are willing to self-reflect and engage in self-growth. That is what you're looking for in a partner.
I like that a lot, honestly. I found that with some friends that just don't in general engage in feedback very well. I actually dealt with that recently. They're kind of a little toxic in my personal opinion.
I mean, we all have a hard time hearing what we perceive as criticism of ourselves, right? And usually because it lands, because we think those things about ourselves too, or we know that there are things we have to work on. So if you can find somebody who is emotionally mature enough and secure enough to be able to engage in that process, either with you or on their own or in their own therapy, that's a pretty well-adjusted person in my mind. Then there's other green flags like willingness to communicate openly and honestly, right? Or somebody who can handle conflict without entering territory that's really toxic or let alone abusive. There's so many things that I think people, like great traits people can have to be in relationships. But again, I really feel like the ability to see yourself clearly and see your work clearly and do that work. Biggest green flag.
I like that. That actually makes me feel better about myself because I actually like feedback, but I tend to like it right on the spot so I know what I did wrong because I'm a visual learner and verbal, but verbal doesn't always work for me. But I'm a visual, verbal, and written learner. So if I can at least get on the spot what I did wrong, it's easier for me to digest. And I'm also a slow processor, so I need all of those.
Yeah. And that's what they say is that like dealing with an issue as close to when it happens as possible is better for everybody because then, you're linking this is the thing that happened, this is how I felt, you can deal with it more immediately. There isn't a lot of time where resentment is building or it's becoming a bigger issue, but and a lot of people have a hard time with the immediacy part just because it feels scary, overwhelming, or they're avoidant, whatever it might be.
That's understandable. Like I said, personally prefer it right on the spot. That's how I get it at work, at least, because I asked them to. What are your red flags of a unhealthy relationship?
So I define red flags a little differently than other people might. I consider them to be indicators of abuse. Red flags to me is like, this is a serious warning signal. This is danger, run for your life kind of stuff. So people who have clear anger issues, right? Who are exploding and can't contain their anger. People who are manipulative or exploitative in their relationships, people who are mocking or insulting or critical. All of these behaviors to me are somebody who is, especially if you're seeing it early on, this is not a person that you want to be in a relationship with.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And they could also be a cult leader, in my personal opinion, because I think of red flags as abuse automatically, whether that's coercive control
Hmm.
or, since that's not something you physically see, or actual physical abuse that could lead to murder, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, yeah. And so those to me are red flags. And I think people see red flags to mean, somebody who's like late for a first date. And to me, that's not a red flag.
No.
To me, that is a one off. To me, that is don't make any assumptions. You don't know the context. Some people are always late, and that's not a red flag for them necessarily. It's just like how they operate within the world for whatever reason. And I really like to keep red flags strictly for like, this is scary, dangerous, abusive behavior, and an indication that you should definitely not engage in a further relationship with someone.
And do you have an example of that abusive red flag?
I mean, there's the classic example of like if somebody is very immediately willing to express what you would call unsafe, unrestrained, toxic anger. I think that's not a good sign, whether it's at a waiter or if it's at you or if it's really uncontrolled road rage. I feel like that's a sign that somebody is not going to be well regulated when it comes to like an emotionally intense context and they're upset. If they're this triggered and this unrestrained over a small thing, you should be concerned about how big things will land with them.
That's true. I've never thought of it that way.
Not to scare people out there, but like you do want to look out for certain things when
Well,
you're meeting
yeah,
people and bringing them into your
safety.
orbit. Yeah.
Safety is important. And if
Yeah.
that red flag, at least to me personally, I would say don't continue the relationship. I wouldn't, at least, if there
Yeah.
was just a hint of that anger. Like, my background is both getting, well, coercive control in the cult I was in, but physical abuse in my family when I was younger. So I've had both sides of it. It's probably why I am not in a relationship currently. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's easier to spot that. Having those little anger issues definitely can lead to physical altercations. At least I've seen in my childhood growing up. That's
Yeah.
what it can lead to. So having that hint and just knowing that red flag is really important.
Yeah. And then there's the subtle ones, right, which are harder for us to spot and easier for us to explain away. But it's, people who make fun of you. And then if you say, actually, that hurt my feelings, and they say, you're so sensitive, you overreact to everything, like, or you didn't get the joke, and are dismissive even when you express that their joke made you feel bad. And they are slowly, or not even slowly, but like immediately eroding your sense of self trust, your ability to share how you feel. There's no psychological safety. If there's somebody who is like that quick to ignore what you are saying and not care about your feelings, right? That's the more emotional verbal abuse that can happen, but another kind of red flag.
Yeah, and that's like taking away your autonomy. Like, I have experienced a situation where I brought up how this person was contradicting what they were saying by their actions, and that since there was trying to have a boundary set there, but the boundary wasn't clear since that person was going against the very boundary they set. And to me, that contradiction automatically is a red flag, because if you're not following through, because with me personally, as an autistic person, I follow through with what I say. Maybe not
Mm.
right away because of the ADHD side. I sometimes do lag, but I follow through with what I say. And I've learned in the cult leaders contradict what they say too. So seeing that pattern recognition in others
Hmm.
to me is a huge red flag. And I'm not willing to give up my autonomy again for anyone that contradicts what they say. Just
Hmm.
like that relationship I left because, well, non-existent relationship, as they said, since they took away anything I said as nothing. So my feelings didn't count for anything, and my boundaries didn't count for anything. So that automatically were red flags to me.
Yeah, I'd say those are red flags. That counts.
Yeah, so I was happy to leave, but it just felt like a smaller version of leaving a cult to me. It wasn't a huge deal. Like, I didn't feel anything afterwards. I wasn't close to the person. There was no crying, I should say. Normally, if I'm close to
Mhm.
someone and have to leave, in the cult,
Sadness.
I
Yeah.
definitely cried because I felt I had friends in there. But in this case, that didn't feel like a friend any longer with the hurtful things that were said. And
Mhm.
my feelings were not considered whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, so easy enough, right? Easy enough to leave and not feel sad about and not want to go back to when it's that clear. When you're seeing this pattern, when you're seeing a consistent dismissal of your experience, of your needs, of your feelings. If you take all of that in and don't let yourself turn it around into somehow this is my fault or they're not doing anything wrong, somehow I'm participating in this and I should change, which is what can happen in abusive relationships, especially, is that the survivor gets convinced that it's actually them and their fault and they're to blame. But if you don't fall into that, it paints a clear picture of a relationship you don't want to be in.
Yeah, and it's helpful if you do have pattern recognition, but I think they're just the red flags of contradiction of they say one thing and do another, whatever
Yeah,
that one thing may be, and then blame it on you,
not good.
which is
Not good.
confusing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what that made me think of. Oh yeah, what is the current book you're writing on?
The current book I'm writing is called You Don't Have ADHD, and
Woo!
it will which is funny to tell somebody who has ADHD. And
Okay.
it's tackling the over self-diagnosis of our society, of people who read social media posts about ADHD, about anxiety, depression, delusions, multiple personality disorders, whatever it may be, and have decided without further information or assessment or a professional's opinion that they definitely have this disorder and sort of commit to that as part of their integrated identity. And I feel strongly about it in part because I think it's like a huge issue getting in people's ways just in terms of how they're viewing themselves, but it also takes away from the diagnosis and the people who do really have these disorders and are struggling in ways that people don't understand or aren't being represented. And when you say like, I know I'm always procrastinating, I'm so ADHD like everybody else, you are missing the point of what ADHD is and how difficult it can be for people. So I don't like the minimization of it. I don't like the overdiagnosis of it, but I also see why it's happening and people are getting a sense of community from self-identifying with these disorders. So I think it's a really complex picture that I'm trying to capture and represent in this book that I am very far behind on writing. Even
That's
though I
okay.
don't have ADHD, I am behind.
Yeah, I'm behind on my memoir too. So we're in the same boat.
Oh, good. That makes me feel better.
And you can even, if you want to, can you share your book in the background too? What you've written?
Yeah, so right there is They're Not Gaslighting You. Ditch the therapy speak and stop hunting for red flags in every relationship. And it tackles terms that people have misused and weaponized in relationships like narcissist, love bomb, toxic, gaslighting. And then behind that is a book I co authored with a good friend and colleague. It's called Navigating Intimacy, and it is an introductory guide for therapists who want to consider pursuing couples or sex therapy. So, sort of like a combined informational guide for therapists who want to go down either of those fields.
That's pretty cool. Fun fact with me is my degree is in psychology. And when I was in college, they accidentally put me in a PhD course, which was a couples therapy course.
Oh
And
my
I got
gosh.
to go through, we also had to do, I can't think of the name. It was like a lab where we actually had couples come in and we had to do
Sort of like
what
the
we learned. We had like a bunch of, besides our textbook, we had like 5 different books we read to intimacy on couples therapy. And we had to go over the basics and actually do a practice session with a real life couple. It wasn't the same one. We got different ones, but we actually got to watch in a room and
yeah.
see through a one-way mirror. So I did do one
What?
PhD course and I did get 4 credits for it, but I never got to master's level or PhD. But I did take one PhD course regardless and did get credit for it. So I do
Did they
have
not
some
notice?
perspective.
Did they not notice that you were an undergrad
They
and a
did. I
PhD?
literally, well, autism. So I did straight up tell them, was I
Guess what?
supposed to be here?
It really this
And
is the
they
wrong
went,
place.
no, but you're fine. You can just take it. They weren't
Oh
willing
my
to take me
gosh.
out. And I went, okay.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I got to take it. It was a lot of work, but I
I
got to take
believe
it.
it. I believe it.
And I've never forgotten it. I apply it into everything I see in everyday life and just relationships because everything that was taught in that course you can apply to just friendships too. You can apply to, like, there
Oh,
was
yes.
10 love language thing we had to read on the different love languages each person has.
Oh,
And when you have a
yeah.
partner, sadly, it's not for LGBTQIA plus people like myself, but everything was
Research.
for straight people. So it's a whole
Yeah.
different dynamic I've learned.
Yeah.
Versus straight people. So I know straight couples therapy very well.
Research is almost always so heavily skewed towards a very specific population, whether it's straight people or white people or affluent people. You know, it ends up not being representative. This is very true.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think of that until now. I'm a later in life coming out person, but I'm not straight in any sense. And if you ask specifically what I am, it's just queer because I don't have the exact words for it. So I will forever be queer.
Queer.
If you want
That
more
covers it.
specific, you probably won't get it from me, but queer is what you get. What is a healthy way to bring up a disagreement in a relationship?
There are, I think, many healthy ways to bring up a disagreement. Every couples therapist will tell you the best thing to do is to not start with the finger pointing immediately, but to try to keep it to, as cliche as it is, I statements. I felt unheard. I felt hurt. I felt blah, blah when this happened, when you did this, as opposed to you messed this up. You always mess this up. You don't care about me. You're so selfish, right? That framing of sticking with your experience and why it hurt is inviting somebody into your internal world and is more likely for them to be empathic towards your experience and want to care, want to know, and want to help. Versus when you start a disagreement or you raise an issue with, you did this thing, you messed it up, you didn't think about it, this is always what you do. The person's just going to be defensive. They're going to explain themselves. They're going to say why you're wrong, why you got it wrong, and you will start a fight essentially, and you will definitely not leave the conversation feeling heard.
That makes sense. And then one question that I really want to know the answer to is, do you think two neurodivergent people can be in a relationship and make it work?
Absolutely, yes. It depends. I mean, I would say that about any two people as well. You know, sure, they can be in a relationship. It depends. You know, it depends on their clinical presentations and the work that they are doing and like severity of symptoms. And there's so many components to it. But I think absolutely yes, two neurodivergent people can and sometimes can thrive in a relationship because they have a level of understanding about their experience that other people might not. Now, there's a degree of empathy and compassion as opposed to some people who are not neurodivergent will just assume it is because of some reason that's not true, that they're acting a certain way or speaking a certain way or communicating in a way that's different. So I think it can actually be a benefit to couples. A big part just depends on education and communication, like understanding the other person, how they operate, maybe in like the clinical sense, but also like in their unique experience, wanting to understand them, how they think, how they operate, what they mean when they do something or say something, so that you are not jumping to assumptions and reacting to something that's not true.
That makes sense. And the good part that I can think of, I've seen some couples, and even though it's on social media, I've seen two autistic individuals. They have two separate rooms, but they're married and lesbians, but they still came up with a way to still be together and sometimes sleep in each other's rooms together. Yeah, that's what it made me think of because at least for me personally, I know I would probably still need my own space if I was in a relationship. I just am someone who, as an autistic ADHDer, so AUDHDer, I like my space and I like my alone time and I like my time that I don't have to talk to anyone. It's not that I don't like talking to people.
Yeah.
And just doing that seems like a smart way to still get your space and still spend time together when you need to. I would need a relationship like that.
Yeah, I think the great thing about modern times is that we are in a world of you get to make your own rules in a way you didn't get to 40 years ago. You know, like you can have separate bedrooms and people don't think that you're about to get divorced, your relationship is problematic, but people are making their own rules for their own lives and their own needs, which is fantastic. The hard part about modern day relationships is that there are no rules and nobody knows how to operate. And there's a lot of you're supposed to be cool and chill and not show your feelings or not ask for things. So it's a complicated time for dating and relationships.
Yes, it is. Oh, what isn't gaslighting in a relationship? That's a good one to go with.
What isn't gaslighting?
Yeah, versus is, but isn't.
What everybody thinks gaslighting is that isn't in relationships is people remembering things differently. I can't tell you how many times a week I have to talk people down from gaslighting because they are arguing about this is what happened on Saturday night. No, this is what happened on Saturday night because they get into a fight or they remember something totally differently. And if somebody does not agree with their recollection, they call it gaslighting. And it is not gaslighting.
That makes sense. I'm gonna be right back just because I'm choking too much.
Oh, yeah. Get some water. Don't choke.
Thank you for the running segment. That real quick.
You got it.
So I prefer to
Yeah,
not cough while you're talking.
I'm getting over a cold if you can hear it in my voice and my cough. So
I
I'm trying
am
to.
also actually. I just
That
for sure.
season.
Yeah, it is. At least we're both on that same page and even on writing too, which is nice
Yeah,
because
I know. We're in sync right now. It's
we
lovely.
are. It feels like less pressure for me too, knowing someone else is having trouble too.
Oh yeah, super behind.
Because at least the other authors that I've interviewed on this podcast, most of them are just have that schedule down. I don't.
I did for these two. I mean, they were ahead of schedule. This one I wrote in like 4 or 5 months even.
Jeez.
And this book, I think I took this one on too soon because I am just not, I'm not doing it.
It's okay. I
It
think I
happens.
took my memoir too soon too, because it's been, I think, a year since I started writing it. Because I started writing it during the recording of Escape Me Twin Flames on Netflix. So that's when I started writing it. And then
Wow.
I rewrote it. And I'm about to rewrite it again because I don't like how I did my prologue. So I'm going to redo the prologue and redo my beginning. But so I'm about to do the rewrite of the rewrite of the rewrite.
That's the process.
Yay!
Woohoo.
Well, I normally don't do that. Like my children's books were all poems first, and all I did is have to transfer and add a couple
Oh,
words to it. And my
yeah.
poetry book
It's
is
poetry.
poetry, so poetry, all of that.
Yeah, yeah, and novels are different for sure, nonfiction and
Well, yeah. I am also writing my first novel too, and it's a sapphic one. I guess sapphic horror.
whoa.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to go that direction, but with my prologue and everything that's getting dug up in the story that I didn't even expect it to do, it's definitely horror, but it's
You do have a lot going on right now.
I do, but I haven't gone back to that one, but I need to go back to my memoir. But yeah.
All in due time, it'll
Oh yeah.
happen.
As we both put the pressure on to it,
Yeah,
right?
right? Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, it's fine. Not a big deal at all. Let's see. I do normally have this to read just in case, but I feel
Yeah.
like you've covered most of it pretty quickly.
Oh, sorry. Cruising through.
It's okay. Last person I interviewed was done in 15 minutes and I had written 10 questions for her. So every person is different. But do you have a favorite part? Oh, wait, I'm going to ask you the question that I asked everyone on the set of Escaping Twin Flames just for fun. What
Yeah.
does your typical day look like as a therapist?
Ooh, good question. A typical day. So I'll give you a clinical day because I have some non-clinical days where I do podcast or writing or whatever. Take care of my kids, get them up, get them to school, get them settled into their lives. I always work out in the morning, work out, shower. I feel like it's the best mental way to start my day. Do a little Shakti mat, which is my favorite thing ever. It's my little meditative break between my personal life and then entering work life. And then I settle into my office, which is in my house. So I get my little dog behind me, Clifford, and we settle in here for the day. And then I'll usually see 4 to 6 clients, depending on the day, and wrap up by 4 and take care of Clifford, walk him, feed him, and then re enter my personal life. Get my kids, do dinner, do all that stuff. And it's pretty regimented. I do it basically every single day, except for my non clinical days.
I like that. And I like that you have non-clinical days because some that I've talked on are completely, I guess, virtual therapy, psychology
Mm-hmm.
wise, and
Mhm.
their day looks a little different. I have asked a couple, I guess one psychologist. I guess you're the second one I've asked. A therapist, psychologist,
Yeah.
switching. At least comparing both of your guys' day, because I like doing comparing. It's not to say one person's better than the other. I just like
Yeah.
comparing because I know a lot of neurotypicals think comparing is comparing to
To
someone better
judge.
than or less
Yeah.
than. But when I compare, it's to see what's in common versus what's not. That's it. There's
Yeah.
nothing to read in between the lines of that.
Yeah.
But at least with Dr. Shannon, who I told you about earlier, in her day, she starts at walking. She's
Mm.
a queer psychologist. And then she goes online, and depending on her day or how she's feeling herself, is based off of how many clients she takes in the day.
Mm.
And then, well, getting clients and being queer is also a little harder too, I've learned from
Mm.
her. But that's her day. And that's cool that you're a mom too. So you have double the fun.
Double the fun. Yeah. I
Yes.
used to I used to wake up at 4:30 and work on my book. before the day started, before my kids got up at 6:30, and that's what I have to get back to. But it's getting darker outside. Sleep is so appealing. It's been a little bit harder.
Well, I would think so. At
Yeah.
least with me, it's getting colder where I live, so I'm waking up earlier naturally.
Where do you live?
I live in Colorado. I won't say
Oh,
where, but Colorado is where I
lovely.
live.
Nature. Love it.
Yeah, so the temperatures right now are like getting to 29 degrees or lower.
Oh,
Like this
whoa.
morning it was 29, so I woke up at 5 technically. So I'm starting to wake up earlier, not because I want to. So during cold season,
Mm.
I go to bed later and wake up earlier. So I go to bed at like 11 and wake up at like 5 or 4. And then I function for the rest of the day
Interesting.
and then I crash and then I do it again. That's the
Interesting.
ADHD portion I know of myself because I
Huh.
am both night and morning person. But depending on the
Oh,
season,
you can
sometimes I
shift.
go on more, but I've always my entire life been both night and morning. But only when it's cold do I do late nights,
Both ends.
early morning.
See, I'm a morning person. I don't want to stay up late. Not ever. I mean, I want to be in bed by 9 every single night.
That's normally how I feel, but the seasons happen and then my body just starts wanting to stay up longer, whether I want to or not. Like
Yeah.
I guess the ADHD side of myself, I chose not to do any medication because
Hmm.
I've heard it kind of dims the autistic side. It doesn't necessarily change anything, but I like my creative side, and that more of comes from my autistic side versus my ADHD side. You would think it'd be the
Hmm.
opposite, but
Yeah.
my
Interesting.
autistic side has more empathy, I guess. Emotional empathy, but
Hmm.
empathy versus ADHD. It's just go, 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 go. When am I gonna stop? Go, 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 go. And then
Yeah.
this throughout the day. Just for people that don't know, it's constant headbutting because I
Yeah.
definitely prefer a schedule. So I'm trying to get myself there with writing, podcast, and
Yep.
at least you have some of a schedule, even if maybe not necessarily getting the writing part in either.
Yeah.
But
I'm a very regimented person. My whole family is. We're all very, do the same things, very disciplined, which is, yeah, a blessing and a curse. Like people who can just sort of like relax, like sink into vacation or like spontaneously do something.
I
No.
can do the spontaneous stuff, but that's only when I get bored of schedule
Yeah.
ADHD stuff. And then I do spontaneous stuff. But
But you
other
know what I
than
like about that is that it's moderation, it's balance, it's allowing yourself to need routine, to need change. And same thing with the seasons. I like being able to sort of like not have rules about exact bedtimes and like letting the cold weather change how you feel about your bedtime routine or just sort of like letting the world around you influence you and going with it.
I haven't thought of it that way. It's more of the pain of
Yeah, like contradiction.
yes, of just me existing. I'm a contradiction
Yeah,
in myself, but
yeah.
I don't ever go against my word.
Which is
That I could
something.
proudly say.
That's meaningful.
But I guess, let's see. We're doing good on time. And then can you let everyone know where they can find you and including your books too? I'll leave links down below in the description.
You can find me on my website, which is drisabellemorley.com. That is the best place to find all of the books that I do. That you can see like all the stuff. I've got a podcast, I've got a blog. You can find all my things and my clinical work if you want to work with me. It's all there. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Isabelle Morley. Same thing.
And the fish story is on there too, if anyone's interested.
If you care about fish, if you don't care about fish, this is for you because I promised my kids I'd get them fish because I thought it was the easiest pet to get. And turns out it is the most high maintenance, expensive pet of all time. I have killed 4 fish and I've kept 2 alive, but I'm sure that there's a lot more of the story to unfold.
I would think so. And plus the story of your humor too, because I like your humor on Instagram. It's
Thank you.
appreciated
Oh,
and
good.
true because not many therapists have that. It's more of just the serious stuff. Yours isn't all serious.
I'm glad. You know what? It's there's a lot of seriousness in general, and I try to balance both things. So I'm glad I'm glad the humor at least
But
uplifts one person.
and it's on topic of even your writing of your book. A lot of the Instagram posts of even ADHD and even just you talking about it too on your stories on Instagram of
Yeah.
I'm procrastinating, but I don't have ADHD.
Just to normalize that you can struggle with things that sound like ADHD, but are not necessarily ADHD. And that's the tricky part, right? Is that it's so relatable. All of the symptoms and all the things that people note are because of their ADHD is like something that at some point or another we all experience and struggle with. But you'll hear all about it in the book when I explain why it's not necessarily ADHD.
Exactly. And just like with gaslighting, because in one of my interviews, I don't know which one, I think it was actually on Amanda Montell's podcast that I said this, but I said that it bugs me when like influencers or people with huge platforms misuse the term gaslighting and just joke around going, I'm gaslighting you. Just like when they say I'm a cult leader. Well, you could be. So I wouldn't joke around that. If you say I'm a cult leader, you might actually be one. Just
Yeah,
like
I
with
couldn't agree
gaslighting, you
more.
might actually be gaslighting and misusing it in the
Yeah.
term as you're saying.
Yeah. I agree. And I am always anxious because I don't want to be the word police here and make people feel like they can't use words that they want to or that they feel it that they know well, except that these words have meanings, right? Like for somebody who's really been gaslit, it's not fair to then like jokingly use it or use it incorrectly and take away the meaning of it because it represents something very serious that should be sort of left untouched. But I mean, I will say to everybody, I try to like with warmth and with humor get these things across. I don't want anyone to feel judged or bad about themselves or super criticized. I just want everyone to be more aware of how they use these words.
Well, and if it is misused, just to add to the sides you talked about, misusing gaslighting also just takes away someone's experience in gaslighting, being
Yeah.
gaslit, and it also is almost like not meaning to form, taking away autonomy of that experience in the first
Mm.
place.
Yeah.
It's the, I guess, accidental, not on purpose way of taking away autonomy because it's not really out of malice or out of, oh, I'm gonna get you. It's just out of a joking form of
Yeah.
not using the word correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, which I totally get how that happens. And these clinical words are sort of part of the zeitgeist right now. Everyone loves using them and defining their experiences through these words. And I get it, I do, except that some people really have experienced abuse or they really do have these disorders. And we have to let that be a real thing. That's not just expanding in its meaning so much that it no longer means anything. And the semantic bleaching has erased all definitions of these words.
Yeah, exactly. And like one thing that bugs me, at least when I hear someone just go, oh, that's autistic, if they have like a same food they eat all the time, which isn't necessarily autistic, which I don't think people understand that. That also can be someone who's neurotypical that just likes eating the same meal.
Yeah.
But when it comes to autism, it's an actual safe food. Like I have pho is my safe food, which I rarely get, which sucks. I'm not like a typical autistic person who gets their safe food all the time. So to me, that's like my go-to safe. And actually, it's my therapy food. I count it as too. It brings me to my can function better. Like there's certain aspects of autism that people misuse the term within like
Yeah.
saying, oh, this person eats this all the time. Oh, this person, like, yeah, I do. Absolutely. I do like showing off this, and this is my newer one. But fidgets, they do have fidgets, but every autistic person, some of us do have them in common because I don't like that misinformation out there saying that autistic people can't relate. They can. There's just so many different aspects of autism that isn't educationally out there. And I think due
Mhm.
to that, people also misuse it and go, oh, I must be autistic because I love Pokemon.
Right.
There's other people that love Pokemon too that are neurotypical and not autistic at
Yes.
all. Or the Disney adults, you
Yes.
can use an example too. They probably aren't
Yes.
autistic, but might think they are because of their obsession with Disney, which that's just an
An obsession.
obsession.
Yes. You could be super into a hobby or whatever it is, a fidget toy, and that does not necessarily mean that you have autism. I feel like that is such a good example of this sort of generalization of like, yeah, I'm so into Pokemon too. I'm so autistic. That is not that is not a equation that makes sense.
No, though an autistic man, Japanese man, did make Pokemon
Pokemon.
exist. But so it makes sense for some actual autistic people to like it.
Yeah.
since I am actually autistic. So it's nice when I'm able to get my perspective in things too. Because I
Yeah.
like that you do that at first, at least my perspective of reading your book. Like just not actually reading it. I will eventually, but the title alone, I at first was caught off guard and seeing Dr. Robert Stern interview you, I got a better feel for it of what it meant because I know just by the title, some people might
It's a
do
little
it.
provocative.
Well, that's like super gay.
Yeah. You want to capture people's attention. Yeah. And so the same one for you don't have ADHD. I think people are going to be find a little controversial, but when you read the book, it is a very like warm holding space of this is why we're misusing these words. I do it too. It's okay. And let's try to do better.
Yeah, and that's not a lot to ask. It would be nice if more people were more aware and better educated in the language they use when it comes to any form of abuse, whether it's coercive control or actual physical abuse, just
Yeah.
because it does take away from the victim or survivor. I see myself as a survivor, but however
Yeah.
they see themselves,
Yeah.
that takes away that experience. It's just like what the predator does, taking away that experience. Even if that's not from a
The
predatory point
intent.
of view, it can be.
Mhm.
I've had to step back in situations to figure out the truth due to that.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that's
thank,
my trauma bond anger. I get so mad when people misuse trauma bond because
oh yeah,
that is a very specific term that needs to represent an actual trauma bond, which is a confusing and very upsetting and destructive thing people can experience. So everybody's saying they're trauma bonded because they went through like a hard merger at work. Real that really gets under my skin.
exactly. Well, yeah, it gets under my skin too
I
because
can
of,
imagine.
well,
I bet.
yeah, in a
Yeah.
cult and any abusive relationship, that's an automatic trauma bond, anyways. But you have
Yeah.
to understand the terms. Like, I didn't start learning most of the terms until I got out of my cult situation. And
Hmm.
then I did some investigations into cults. And right now on my YouTube channel, I am starting to go over into the true crime, but with people with disabilities because no one handles it, in my personal opinion, in a humane manner and seeing the
Hmm.
human that was killed or the human that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what I learned right now in my research is a person with disability is cognitive. Like I am actually not fully cognitively as high as most neurotypicals. I don't know how to word that, but I can come off that way just
Yeah.
because I'm verbal doesn't mean I'm at the same level. I'm definitely not. Most of the cases I've read, they are autistic, but I learned that someone who cognitively is probably similar to me, whether they're verbal or not, nonverbal, they have a higher chance, 84.3% chance of getting pretty much murdered in a victim case. The fact that autistic, well, the fact not just autistic, wow, my brain needs to work better. People with disabilities have 4 times higher rate getting killed of getting in a true crime situation than someone who is able-bodied.
Wow.
And then the other cases are like 23.5% to 43.5%. But then on top of that, those who are disabled are underreported. So to
Wow.
me, those would be much higher anyways, probably in the 80s also would be my guesstimate. I said that in one of my videos that will be showing before this, but I've found at least 28 cases so far because I'm trying to find as many cases. So I'll be doing documentaries too, not
Okay.
necessarily of true crime, but of just disabilities because I'm trying to educate people. From my
Yeah.
perspective, I feel like I have a good perspective being someone who is disabled and comes
Hmm.
off looking not disabled and sounding not disabled, but I had
Yeah.
speech and language most of my life. And
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
that factored in because language doesn't come easy to me, but I love reading. I love writing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're a good person then to represent that, to communicate the experience of it and to be able to reach people and explain.
Well, yeah, and the fact that every true crime case on YouTube that I've seen, those who handle the true crime of any true crime, those who decide to do one disability case, they focus on the person that
Mm,
was murdered. They focus
yeah.
on what the scene was or something else instead of the justice, because the justice system doesn't work for people with disabilities, is what I've been learning in each one of the cases, because most of them, like in one case, the attorney general pretty much said, yeah, this person might have been murdered by the police, but it's fine. And he was cognitively very low, disabled person with cerebral palsy who
Oh
was shot
God.
by 4 police officers 9 times.
Wow.
That's just one
Very
case
upsetting.
example. There's a lot more out there that follow a
Mm,
pattern, because I've been reading and seeing so many different ones, and a lot of them are a same pattern.
mm.
Most, whether it's the police, whether it's whoever's on the scene, sometimes the family members themselves who are supposed to be the caregivers don't care, and they're
That's
not well educated. And no one, at least from the podcasts I've been on, because I bring up my work I do and bring up myself purposely, because I don't feel like everyone's well educated in people with disabilities, period.
yeah.
Even on the set of Escaping Twin Flames, I brought up a lot of my perspective purposely offset, and most of them didn't know or had never heard that information.
To listen to this episode when it comes out.
Well, the
Mm,
episode, I'm trying to, when was it?
November. Oh, and I actually have to hop off soon because I have to
Okay,
go
go.
reading. So, but
Well, perfectly timed, actually.
yeah, we did it. I knew we
You,
would.
yes, we would. And you'll get to look at this, the edited version. I have no idea when, but I will keep you updated.
Sometime. I'll keep an eye out for it. Perfect.
But
Well,
if you
this is
gotta go.
great.
All right. Thank you so much, Isabelle, for being here. I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, thank you for everything. And again, if you made it through the entire interview, this will soon be uploading on multiple platforms. I will update you in 2026. Thanks so much for being here. Till next time, peace. Bye, guys.